This is a thin kerf, and you can see it's an incredibly wafer thin blade, very, very, very thin. This is an electroplated blade, so you can see along the rim here, instead of having a full rim of diamond, you have these little spots along the rim that have diamonds electroplated to the core metal of this blade. So the difference between the diamond and the electroplated and the sintered diamond is in that softer kind of bronze metal. So as you cut with it, the diamonds are going to shift slightly in that metal. So it's not quite as aggressive a grind or a cut as you would see from this blade, which is an electroplated blade. Now these little dots or spaces of diamonds here, these are plated diamonds onto the substrate with nickel. So these diamonds do not move. There is only a single layer of them. So once they wear out, this blade is done. Electroplated blades are much less expensive than a sintered diamond blade because you're going to go through a lot of these. They're not going to last terribly long. The other drawback to them is as soon as you start cutting with them, the first several cuts are going to be extremely aggressive and will probably chip out, if not break your glass. So the first 2 or 3 cuts you do with an electroplated blade, you want to try and do that with a sacrificial piece of glass that you do not care about, because it's going to take a little bit to wear down the high spots of these electroplated diamonds, because they are not really going to move around at all. They are locked into place. So you do want to try and cut through, grind through a sacrificial piece of glass for 2 or 3 cuts to really break these diamonds in before you try and cut your milli with them. I will be using one that we have already cut through several pieces with, so you see what it looks like once it is done. This is a brand new one. I'll be cutting with one that's a little bit used, so you'll see what your eventual use case would be like. Generally speaking, on a milli about this thick, you can expect probably 30, maybe 40 slices out of an electroplated blade. Out of the sintered blades we talked about earlier, several thousand, easy. So huge difference there, but also a big difference in price. And you do have a lot less material loss with these electroplated blades. Like I said, as you can see, they are extremely thin, and you'll see the difference when we start cutting. So I'm going to start with our electroplated diamond blade, and you can see the paint has come off of this blade because we have used this blade a couple of times. So we have already knocked the high spot off of all these electroplated diamonds on our saw blade. So it should give me a really nice cut in my milli. And you'll be able to see how thin a cut it really is, how clean a cut it is, and we'll go from there. So let's run through this one real quick. Now you can see on there, I've got a pretty thin little cut. I'm a little bit off. It's not exactly straight, but that's okay. And you can see it did a really nice job. There's very little edge chipping. The electroplated blade does a really nice job. It's super thin, does not chip up a lot. And again, like I said, you really do have to cut through some sacrificial glass for the first 2 or 3 cuts to get it to run this nicely. And then once you do, you're getting probably 30, 40, maybe 50 cuts out of this on something this size. And then you're going to need a new blade because it's going to wear out. So resin diamond blades behave a little bit like sintered diamond blades in the fact that the entire rim of the blade is all diamond, but instead of a metal matrix, this is actually in a phenolic resin type matrix. So it's a lot softer, and the diamonds move around a lot more in this resin diamond blade than they do in the sintered diamond blade. So this ends up giving you a much finer cut with a lot less edge chipping. The drawbacks to these blades, they are insanely expensive. I believe a 10-inch blade like this runs well over $200. They do give fantastic cuts, but they are also a lot more fragile. You can see probably in this blade that I'm going to try and use today, it has already been damaged. Just a little bit of flex in this blade is all it takes to knock a chunk out of the resin. Now I'm going to still try and cut with this blade. I don't know what my success rate will be with this. Sometimes with a little bit of damage like this, you can be fine. Other times, as I start cutting with this, the entire rim of this blade may just completely come apart on me. We're going to find out, so always be sure to wear safety glasses. This is our resin diamond blade on here, and you know I already have a little chunk out of the rim of my resin blade, so I'm not entirely sure how well this is going to cut. We're going to give it a shot. Hopefully it will not come apart on us, and hopefully we'll be able to see the results that we get from this cut as well. Let's give this a shot. Well, that worked pretty well actually. And you can see another really nice cut. You can make these even thinner if you really wanted to, but I doubt you'd want to. Nice, clean, very little edge chipping on there, if any. So resin blades are beautiful blades. They really do a fantastic job of cutting. They leave you an excellent surface on the glass, but again, they are rather expensive and extremely fragile. So, you know, that did pretty well right there. You'll probably also notice with that electroplated blade and this sintered diamond blade, the cuts are pretty slow. Being fine grit diamonds or very fine grit cuts, the blades are going to go through the glass a bit slower. You push it and you're going to cause problems. You're either going to bend the blade a little bit, you're going to break your glass or chip your glass out. You do have to be patient with the blades. When we talk about diamond saw blades, the most common type is what's called a sintered diamond saw blade. So you can see on the rim of this blade is all diamond, this whole kind of amber colored, gold colored rim. It's actually kind of a bronze mixture. It has diamond impregnated throughout the entirety of this metal. So as this blade wears down, you can use an aluminum oxide dressing stick, which looks like this. And we have a video already on our site that talks about how to use a dressing stick to sharpen a saw blade. But once these blades start wearing down, the diamonds start wearing down, you can dress this blade, which will strip off a layer of this metal and expose the next layer of diamonds on the rim of this blade. So they have an incredibly long life to them. There are a number of different options when it comes to sintered saw blades. This is a result blade, which is what we consider to be a medium cut blade. So it's going to go through the glass a little bit faster, but it's also going to give you a little bit more edge chipping out of the blade cut. So you'll see that when we start trying to cut this milli and the different options we have. We also carry what's called a Superlock Glass Plus blade. Now this is a fine grit diamond blade, so it's going to go through the glass a little bit slower, but it's going to give you a much cleaner cut with a lot less edge chipping on the blade. Again, this is a sintered diamond blade, so once this starts slowing down or you have trouble with it, you simply cut it through a dressing stick. It'll resharpen this blade like it's brand new again, and you just keep going. You will have to dress a fine grit blade a lot more often than you will have to dress a medium grit blade, simply because you are going to wear these diamonds down a little bit faster. Here is our Husqvarna Superlock Glass Plus blade. Again, this is a sintered diamond blade, so there's diamond all the way through the rim of this blade. It is a fine grit diamond, so it's going to cut a little bit slower and give you less edge chipping and a better surface, but it's going to be an extremely long lasting blade. It's going to go through the glass a little bit faster, and it's going to last significantly longer than our electroplated blades or the resin diamond blades at a much lower price point than the resin blades. So it'll be interesting to see how this one cuts. We're going to cut another slice out of this, and we'll see how it goes. And you probably noticed that it sounds very different when cutting with a sintered diamond blade versus the resin blade or the electroplated blade, and it went through the glass quite a bit faster. It also gives you a really nice clean cut. There's really no edge chipping on this. And you can look at this end as well. It really does a fantastic job and is significantly cheaper than a resin blade, just as fast, just as clean. You are going to get a little bit more material loss between the cuts because it is thicker than that electroplated blade. But what you get out of this is a much longer lasting blade and a lot faster cut. So we're going to switch over to our medium cut blade, our result diamond blade, and see what the difference in that is. So we have on now our result diamond blade, which is a medium cut blade. Again, a sintered diamond blade, so there's diamond throughout the entire rim of this blade, but it's more of a medium grit diamond, about a 100, 140 on this. So it's going to cut through this glass a lot faster, but you're also going to get a lot more edge chipping out of the cut, and we can see that probably a little bit later once we clean everything off. There's also a good possibility that we will knock a chunk out of this glass before it comes out because it is going to be a lot faster, a lot more aggressive. We're going to find out. And you can see that was a much faster cut from that. And you may be able to tell on this already that there is some edge chipping out of there. You can see the little chips that went out of the edge. Now, depending on what you're doing with your millie, you may have to grind past all of that. So what you really lose in the speed of this blade is the fact that you're going to spend a lot longer trying to grind that down and get these chips out. So you're really looking at where your priorities lie in terms of blades. Are you looking for the smallest amount of material loss of this that you possibly can get away with? You may want to look at one of those electroplated thin kerf blades because you're going to lose very little glass from the cut and you're still going to get a virtually chip-free cut. Are you looking for the best surface from this that you possibly can get? Then you're probably looking for the resin blade where you're going to get very little, if any, edge chipping, and you're going to get a really nice surface on your millie from the cut that's easy to clean up from. You could probably even go straight to a fire polish from a resin blade. If you're looking for a little bit of mechanical cleanup, the Superlock Glass Plus blade, the fine grit blade, is fantastic because you'll get very little, if any, edge chipping. You'll get an extremely nice surface that is very quick and easy to grind and polish to get mechanical polishes from. And then if you're looking for speed, the result blade. You can really just knock stuff out really, really fast. You don't have to dress this blade very often, and it will last a tremendously long time.